We want a solution that is meaningful and relevant.
It's a struggle. I don't make ends meet. I don't make ends meet.
There's a myth out there as well, is that the government provides enough resources to people with disabilities to live happily.
I've always wanted to get married, and it's not just a piece of paper to me. It is a union and vows.
Today we're talking about ending disability poverty.
Deep conversations, real honest stories, and complex relevant issues, all examined through a disability lens. This is In Focus.
Hello, I'm April Hubbard. Joining me now via Zoom are Rabia Khedr and Heather Smith. Rabia Khedr is the National Director of Disability Without Poverty, a grassroots movement led by people with disabilities. She lives in Toronto. Heather Smith has rheumatoid arthritis and is a recipient of the Canada Pension Plan Disability Benefit. She lives in Sussex, New Brunswick. Heather, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell me a bit about how you and your husband Tim both became part of the disability community?
I sure can. My husband and I of 36 years worked for half of our lives, which was good. We were both disabled around the age of 40. My husband was a welder. He ended up with the disease from that in the mid-90s. He has neuropathy, he has diabetes, he has insulin for the diabetes, he has kidney failure, very low rate of kidney function. One kidney actually doesn't work at all because we're an hour away from the nearest hospital that does any kind of dialysis. So we do at-home treatment. It's 4 times a day, so it kind of keeps us tied down.
And you were diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, but you kept working for a while?
I worked in 2018 in 100% painkillers, pain medication from the pharmacist as well, from the doctor. Probably shouldn't have worked. I think it increased my disability. Finally, in the summer of 2019, I could no longer work. I just couldn't. I was just physically taken out. I just couldn't. And so I resigned from my job, 20 years.
Thanks for sharing, Heather. Rabia, can you tell me a bit about your experience with disability?
I was born with a disability, a recessive congenital eye condition. Never saw perfectly, and over time became fully blind. I don't have any functional vision at this point in my life. I wasn't born here, but I was blessed to grow up in Mississauga, Ontario. I come from a family where my siblings also have disabilities. So I had no choice but to live, eat, and breathe disability rights.
Thank you, Rabia. Heather, you and your husband both received the CPP disability benefit. How do you make ends meet?
It's a struggle. I don't make ends meet. I don't make ends meet. Tim and I receive less than $1,800 a month. So that's our total income. So whatever the cost of living is, after all our bills are paid, our essential mortgage, electricity, communications, insurances, we have $250 a month left out of our $1,750 for the balance of the month until we get paid again, because we get paid monthly. So that's not including food, gas, any sundry essentials, anything, any repairs, any emergencies. I would like to propose a trial for someone who really has a lot of money to try and live on $250 a month.
It's an impossible situation, yet so many people with disabilities are living far below the poverty line. Rabia, what is Disability Without Poverty doing to address this?
When the government announced a Canada Disability Benefit last fall, we thought that, hey, this is an opportunity. This is a promise that we want to make sure no government forgets. So we are going to bring people together through grassroots leadership and bring people together coast to coast to coast to make sure that disability poverty is front and center, and that a Canada disability benefit is fully realized with the full participation of people with lived experience, of people with disabilities, from design to implementation.
Why is it important that Disability Without Poverty is led by disabled people?
Leadership of people with disabilities in anything related to their needs is key. Lived experience is critical. So we truly embody the mantra, nothing about us without us, because if we don't have people with disabilities at the table, if we don't have people with disabilities, in fact, living in poverty also at the table, we don't know the intricacies and the nuances and the struggles and barriers and challenges and even opportunities that they can bring forward in the design and implementation of this benefit.
And further to that, why is it important that race and ethnicity are part of the conversation?
As a white disabled man, the disability is a strike in our society. As a white disabled woman, you have two strikes. As a racialized woman with a disability, there are three strikes. So racialized people with disabilities equally need to be at the table because they have even more unique needs. So we have to involve Black people with disabilities. We have to involve racialized women with disabilities. Again, poverty looks different for every individual, and their lived experience of these various identities that intersect and that exacerbate their experiences when it comes to their financial security.
Absolutely. Getting back to your experience, Heather, what does it do to your physical and mental health to constantly be living in a state of survival?
It's very stressful. It's extremely stressful. You already have stress on your body from the illness. You have stress on your finances from the situation. Honestly, both Tim and I seriously have suffered depression, and off and on, you go in and out of it. You kind of have your good days and bad days.
Heather, it's a situation that many of us have had to live through, but it doesn't make it any easier.
When I retired, or semi-retired, left my job, I resigned. My husband said, well, what are you going to do with yourself? And I said, well, I'm really going to be an advocate for seniors. I really am. This financial situation is not conducive to life. A person cannot go forward if they're going backward.
Rabia, I know many of us in the disability community are struggling day to day. So how do we as disabled citizens find the energy to put into mobilizing and advocating when we're fighting to meet our own basic needs?
That's where, we're working really hard to bring people together so people can share their stories. There's a lot of healing and hope when we share, when we can get together and we can hear each other's journeys. But there's also a lot of power in coming together. We're building a movement of hope. And we're very hopeful that if we all come together, we can make sure that government works with us.
That idea is so exciting. Just knowing that Disability Without Poverty exists and that there's a space where we can share our stories and support one another. Heather, how would a standard Canada disability benefit help you?
A disability benefit increase would change our life dramatically. We would be going forward instead of backward, which we currently are.
And Rabia, how do you think that a standard Canada disability benefit would help people with disabilities?
What a Canada disability benefit should do is top up the income they have to get them over the poverty line and as close as possible to a disability poverty line. because it costs more to live with a disability. People with disabilities are not going to get rich and put their money away and invest it and watch it grow and live a lavish lifestyle because we end up with a Canada Disability benefit. What it's going to do is hopefully bring them to a point where they're no longer living in poverty and are just barely reaching their cost of living with a disability.
Exactly. I'm going to have to end it there, but thank you both for joining me today for this important conversation.
Thank you, April.
Thank you, April. I appreciate the opportunity to shed more light on disability poverty.
Coming up, marriage and provincial assistance.
It is very emotional, and it's been a nightmare to have to fight this.
In Focus will return. You're watching In Focus.
Our next story is a familiar one that is playing out across Canada. Adults with disabilities receiving income assistance are being forced to choose between the supports that they need to survive and living with the person they love. Kaitlyn Layden is a disability advocate. She lives in St. John, New Brunswick.
So I have a cerebral palsy, and due to that, I use a wheelchair for mobility.
Lucas Massey is Kaitlyn's fiancé. They got engaged at a Brad Paisley concert in 2017.
Brad was performing then. Luke got down on one knee in front of everyone and proposed. I was just in shock, and I said, what are you doing on the floor? Like, it's dirty. And then I registered what was actually happening, and I'm like, oh no, continue.
After a 5-year engagement, Kaitlyn and Lucas are ready to get married.
Like, I have aspirations for a wedding and a lot of the details planned out. I even have my wedding dress bought.
Despite the plans, the couple have yet to set a date. That's because Kaitlyn receives assistance from the provincial government.
I receive a check through the social assistance, and I also they help me with my health card, provincial health card, and my wheelchair expenses, and also they cover the cost of my home care. Home care itself is very expensive. It's averagely $20 an hour. So I get 46 hours a week.
Marrying is risky for Kaitlyn because of the Household Income Policy, or HIP. Shelley Petit, chair of the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities, explains.
With the HIP, there's nothing that says that you cannot get married or that you will be disallowed your benefits. It's very muddy. So they say what you have to do is close your first claim, get married, then reapply. Then they'll look at everything and decide.
Everything is a couple's total household income.
It's like Russian roulette. Get married and then hope for the best. Well, that's no way to live your life. It would be like saying to someone that wants to apply for a promotion at work, well, you have to quit your current job, give it up, apply for the promotion, hope for the best. If you get it, great, but if you don't, you're out of a job.
Kaitlyn's fiancé is able-bodied and works.
Unfortunately, I definitely wouldn't be able to survive on his income alone with my current needs with my disability. And I don't expect him to solely take care of my disability and my needs. It's very costly, and I'm not asking for anything more than I would receive as a single person. I'm just asking not to be penalized for being in a relationship and finding fulfillment in my life. I want to stress that I'm very grateful for what I do have. I just can't afford to lose it.
As a disability advocate, Kaitlyn has been calling for the elimination of HIP since 2012.
I hate it. It is very emotional, and it's been a nightmare to have to fight this. This is not okay.
Kaitlyn's situation is not unique.
I've heard several stories, and people come forward and say, thank you for fighting for this, because I'm definitely not alone. This is not just New Brunswick. This is a national issue. I'm definitely not giving up, though. I've always wanted to get married, and it's not just a piece of paper to me. It is a union and vows.
Coming up, employment barriers.
People with disabilities are having great depression when it comes to employment every day.
In Focus will return. This is In Focus.
Ali Mohamed was born in Somalia. He contracted polio as a child and uses mobility aids. Ali came to Canada as a refugee when he was 19. For the past 2 decades, he has worked to help people with disabilities find employment in both the private and public sectors, as well as being involved in several initiatives to help empower racialized individuals and communities. Ali Mohamed joins me today from his home in Toronto. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you, April. Pleasure to meet with you.
What are some of the unique barriers to employment that you've seen in the disability community?
Every person is unique, unique needs, unique challenges, and also unique expectations. But there's overcharging themes that are overall all of us, individuals with disabilities, share. With us, people usually second guess us when we're going for employment. People are usually afraid, or maybe second guessing the capability of the person they see because the person walks differently or talks differently or sees differently or communicates differently and what have you. There's a big gap between the policies that the companies do have to hire or to incorporate individuals with disability to their company, while at the implementation level. To many companies right now, you will hear their policies towards inclusion person with disabilities, but then still the numbers are stagnating or not moving at all.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one thing I've seen in speaking with my friends and in the disability community is employers just being afraid to ask, is this something that you can do? So they just assume that you don't have the skills for the position. There's still many misconceptions around disability that exist. Moving to employment rates, one statistic that I found in doing research. According to a 2018 CNIB survey, the employment rate for blind and partially sighted Canadians was 28%, which is pretty abysmal. A lot of times it's just giving somebody the chance to show that they can contribute and show their creativity and potential.
Yeah, even if you look at the number you just throw away, the last time the Canadian unemployment rate reached that, I think was the Great Depression. We call it the Great Depression, right? So that means people with disabilities are having Great Depression when it comes to employment every day.
Exactly. It's something that definitely should be addressed if people only knew about it, but it definitely gets left behind in the conversation.
There's a myth out there as well, is that the government provides enough resources to people with disabilities to live happily, and we all, those of us who ever encounter, know it's absolutely not the case in there, and not in the case in there, because there's no livable income that people with disabilities receive at all across the nation.
How would a Canadian disability benefit improve the current system and allow disabled people to seek and find work more easily?
I was born outside of Canada, so I know what the poverty looks like for a lot of times. It's not going to only impact you psychologically, it will also consume your time. So imagine if you are Canadian, wants to work, but you have to only be thinking about it, what's going to look like your dinner on the table. So as an individual, that if you've consumed all your time to line up for the food bank, when it's to the 3 hours or 2 hours, where are you going to have a time to look for jobs? If you want to go and look for a job, of course, you're looking for transportation. You need the money to go for that transportation. You're looking for people you're meeting. You want to make sure at least you can afford having a coffee.
I really appreciate you saying that. I don't think most Canadians realize how close many disabled people are to breaking even. I personally was receiving disability supports and working part-time when COVID hit, and it only took 3 CERB payments for me to be able to sustain myself and create my own work. I just needed a little bit of the pressure to be removed. What are your hopes for the next generation?
Well, I'm very hopeful. But what I would hope for is Canada, where the individuals with disabilities don't live under poverty, that we don't waste the talent, and that we are who we are. We are a great country, but we could be even greater when we take care of our own people and to do the great work for this great country.
I'm going to end our conversation there today. Ali, thanks for joining me.
The pleasure is mine, April. Thank you very much.
Every Canadian, regardless of disability, should be able to afford the essentials of life. Poverty should not be the inevitable consequence of living with disability. As we heard from our guests, ending disability poverty is an act of justice that everyone should be fighting for. That's it from In Focus for this week. If you'd like to weigh in or you have an issue you'd like us to cover, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at feedback@ami.ca. Thanks for joining us.
Host, April Hubbard. Producer, Wendy Purvis. Videographer, editor, Andrew Pickup. Reporter, Jillian Gillis. Narrator, Grant Hardy. Media accessibility specialist, M. Williams. Audio post, Mark Phoenix. Graphics, Mike Smith. Opening theme package composed by Matthew Monius for Matt Mac Music. Senior producer, Michelle Dudis. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2022, Accessible Media Incorporated.